Hello world, my name's Amelia. I'm a 32-year-old trans woman living in beautiful Kansas City, Missouri. And I just wanted to do a quick video talking about my experiences living here and how people treat me. So when I came out last year, I had a lot of people online paint Kansas City as being this very transphobic, anti-LGBT area. And while that actually made it really difficult for me to come out, I understand. People had their reasons for telling me. People had their reasons for warning me because they cared. But a lot of them were telling me that, oh, there's conservative Christians that live there and they're not going to accept you. Which honestly, while that's true, people here are not as cruel as one might think. I think one of the reasons that a lot of people based that information was because the fact that I believe Missouri, and forgive me if I am quoting this wrong, Missouri was rated as being like one of the top 5 most transphobic states in America, which that was based on policies and laws, as well as I'm pretty sure that a lot of that actually came out of St. Louis, not Kansas City. Because surprisingly, my experiences here have been very positive. Even going back to when I moved here 4 years ago from Chicago. Yes, Chicago. So that was quite an interesting shift in culture even. I would say that, well, you thought you were in the Midwest in Chicago. Kansas City is definitely the Midwest. I mean, people here just call themselves the true Midwest. So it was surprising. You know, if you want to go watch the video I have about Aldi and how I don't really know if the way I've been treated there has anything to do with nationwide or anything like that, but people are smart to be courteous and to not intentionally be cruel. The only time that I've had anybody be cruel to me, it was just in general because they didn't know better. And you know what? That's somebody else. That's somebody's own ignorance. And I forgive people for being ignorant. So anyways, so I came out. I had this wig on for a while, which it was about then that people definitely start noticing that something was up with me. I have some pictures I have posted online, me pre-HRT, and it just, they're not great pictures. I don't look good. But come beginning of this year, things did start to change for me. People did definitely start noticing something was up, and they either stopped gendering me altogether, or they did gender me as female, even though they probably knew that I wasn't. One thing I do notice about this area that's very common is that people are very, it's like when you ask a friend, tell me the truth, what do you really think? And your friend's going to withhold that information all out of concern that they're going to offend you. And to me, that's what it seems like Kansas City is. People tend to very much keep their opinions to themselves. It's the whole thing about, if you don't have anything nice, don't say anything at all. And a lot of people in Kansas City actually do that. So, probably the first time that I actually experienced any kind of problem was back when I started job searching. And there was 2 employers that I had actually applied for who I had some individual problems. The first one, again, I can't exactly say if it was transphobia, but I went in, it was basically like a mom and pop chain, so I guess that shouldn't come as a surprise. And I had dropped off the application, and they were all really happy and all excited about it, and then for them to not get back with me, and then I come in, and I saw the same lady I saw before, and she obviously recognized me, and I was like, hey, did you get a chance to look at my application? And she goes, oh, we filled all of our positions. Yeah, we're not taking any more, any new people. I seriously wanted to say something to her because right at the door, they still had their hiring sign up. And that sign was still there for weeks to come after she told me that. And I was like, alright, that's awkward, but okay, I would rather work somewhere else, not to mention I think I was lined up for an interview somewhere. The second place that I actually went was Kohl's. Kohl's, of all places. One of the reasons I was really excited about working at Kohl's was because they are on that, I don't know, what is that corporate index list. Again, I'm not pulling up, I'm not probably quoting these things correctly. I'll try to put a link in the description for what it is. But anyways, Kohl's actually has 100% on that index list. And I was really excited about it because a lot of people were talking very positively from an LGBT angle of working at Kohl's. And I went in for an interview. I got called in for an interview and I sat down with the assistant manager and I was sitting there talking to her. And she was so nice and she was so happy that I was... And she starts asking these questions, and I had applied for a lead position. It was great pay, full-time, benefits, and all that, which, by the way, I'm looking for something that had great insurance. So I go in there and sit down. She was all excited. She was really liking me. And she starts asking these questions that I was like, wait a minute. I had to finally sit there and say to her, I'm like, these are questions for a lead position, right? I'm like, I applied. And she's like, you did? And she goes and she starts flipping through the paperwork and goes, oh, you did. Apparently there was a misfiling and they thought I was applying just for a simple part-time position. Anyway, she goes ahead and she interviews me for the lead position and she loved me. She's like, well, I'm going to refer you to the store manager and tell you that we need to hire you. She's like, if the position's available, it's yours. So the next day, I actually got interviewed by the store manager, who, you know, it was a little rude of her to have me come all the way out there to love me, and then to basically tell me that she had promoted somebody from within. However, she does tell me that this person, she very well knows this person's going back to college in the fall. And she said, when that happens, you can have her job. I basically want to put you under her so you shadow her and learn the position. And if you hold up and you end up being as good as you are, we will give you her job. So I was really excited about it. She's like, oh, I'll put it in this afternoon. She's like, you have the job and all these other things. I mean, it was a guarantee. She was like even telling me how, you know, oh yeah, you got turned down for the job you applied for, but here's this job, you know. The next day, I went and I actually bought clothes to match their dress code. I spent almost $40 on thrift store uniform to get this job because I wanted to dress for the job I wanted. Just for Monday to come and I get an email that says, oh, you didn't get the job you applied for. And I thought it was just a generic email for the position that she turned me down for. And I was like, okay, I should get information. I should get and da-da-da-da-da. She promised it to me. I knew it. Tuesday, still nothing. So I go in on that Tuesday and I go to talk to her. I go into the store, I ask to talk to her. She comes up and then she looks at me and she gives me this weird look and she's like, you didn't get the email? I was like, what email? I'm like, I got an email, but I didn't think it was from you. She's like, oh yeah, you should have gotten an email that you were... Turns out that email was her intent of letting me know that I didn't get the job. She's like, yeah, I talked to the assistant manager and we decided to go another direction. I kept trying to ask her, why did I not get the job? It took me about 3 tries. She didn't have an answer. She couldn't tell me. She was just like, oh, we just decided to go another direction. Just another direction. Finally, she comes out and tells me, well, I don't think you can sell credit cards. Really? That is the reason. And I mean, not to mention, I said to her, I was like, you didn't think to give me a phone call? So I ended up just brushing the dirt off my shoes and going on. I kind of, on my drive home, I kind of felt like there was something to that. Almost as if she was trying to say, after I had talked it over with a couple of my friends who at first disagreed that it had anything to do with transphobia, and then after I told them like what she said, they all kind of were looking and they thought about it and then they go, yeah, I almost wonder if she was afraid that you couldn't sell credit cards because you were trans. Like the customers wouldn't buy them from a trans person. But you know, I just went on somewhere else because I knew there was going to be a better job. I got called in for an interview at Lowe's and Old Navy, which is definitely a subject for an actual work video, which is very interesting because Lowe's had surprised me. I really was not expecting Lowe's to be as good as they are, especially when people paint the orange box as being that place that you really should work if you're LGBT and a hardware store. You want to work in a hardware store. But we'll go over that, and also not to mention Old Navy will be an interesting subject to talk about. So, in general, I mean, that was probably the worst experiences, if any, I've ever had. I've never been kicked out of a business, a restaurant, or a place of business in general. I've never had any people drive by, say slurs to me. I honestly don't think I have ever been called any slurs. I have kind of felt a little, there's a little bit of a, I do sometimes kind of feel like my safety is at risk, but I just generally have always had that feeling growing up. I do carry pepper spray on me. I don't walk at night. These are just general principles. And I even felt these things in some of the riskier areas of Chicago as well, for good reason. And I actually have some amazing friends here. My neighbor, when I came out to my neighbor earlier this year, they knew, not to mention my neighbor across the street, actually knew that I was trans. They figured it out just watching me. And I was talking to the neighbor over here, and she sits there, and she was kind of like, I was trying to hint that I was trans, but she didn't know for sure. And it was just, she's like, yeah, you definitely, like, she noticed I was talking different, and she knew that I was acting different. And then it was her husband who finally turned to her and goes, he's transitioning. Oh, oh, right. And she totally got it from them. And ever since then, me and her have had conversations. We have talked. We have had, she's sitting there like, I feel I have no problem with you. And then there's also the subject of my church, which again is going to be a video I want to talk about my other video, because I am Christian. I do consider myself a very devout Christian still. And one of the things I had somebody actually tell me at my church is that there are probably more people in the church who actually support me than I actually think. And it's mostly just because those people are just afraid to make themselves known out of fear that other Christians would condemn them for it. But again, we'll talk about that in another video. So yeah, I mean, there are areas of Kansas City you should stay out of. There is a lot of LGBT friendly areas around here. I actually work in the kind of the southeast corner of Kansas City, and there is a lot of very wealthy conservative people. And at my job at Lowe's, nobody really gives me any problem. The only people who have ever misgendered me at that job has been people that are just not paying attention. But nobody has ever called me a slur. Nobody's ever been mean. I mean, I've probably had a couple people that I think avoid me, but nobody's ever actually been mean. So, in my personal opinion, I think Kansas City is a great place to be trans. Not to mention, there is my clinic I go to, my trans clinic, is very affirming, very well set up for trans people. My doctor is very understanding. She works very hard to make sure, I mean, I could keep going at this. The therapy is amazing. I'm just getting therapy there, which I actually have a therapy appointment in 2 hours from now, so trying to finish this up so I can get it posted. And just general, and apparently this is very recent developments, because like there used to be, there is a doctor, an endo, who practices on the Kansas side, who my trans coworker goes to, and she's like, oh yeah, she's great and everything, but from the feel of it, she's just kind of in it. She's just in it. She's not really involved in it. The other option as far as trans clinics, you could go to Planned Parenthood on the north side, but it was a long drive for me, and I just didn't feel like, I didn't feel comfortable going to Planned Parenthood for that kind of service. So I want to actually find a doctor. And my doctor is actually an OBGYN, which some trans people can probably attest is a very validating thing for yourself. So, and I can say too, it's a very validating thing. So anyways, I just want to give that little video. Hopefully, sorry it was a little longer than I had expected. And we will definitely be doing some follow-up videos. By the way, I do actually have a Twitter. Hopefully I can put it on the screen again. I also actually have an Instagram. I don't post on there very often. Probably I will start posting on there more when things kind of get moving. I also post on Reddit, so if you're ever interested in seeing how things, you know, photos and stories, Reddit is a great place. So anyways, those are great places, and I will catch you next time. Have a great day.